Welcome to another episode of the Multipliers podcast. I will be your host for today. My name is Mehdi, and it is my pleasure to introduce our esteemed guest, Ishpreet Singh Gandhi, who is the founder of Stride Ventures and StrideOne. Ishpreet, thank you for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you, Mehdi. Pleasure is all mine.
Why don't we start with who you are, your background, and tell us a bit about Stride and StrideOne.
Sure. So Stride is the largest financial institution for startups or new age businesses in India. We came in being roughly 5.5 years ago when I came out of my banking industry experience. And that was an experience with a combination of foreign and Indian banks. I belong to an entrepreneur family, had some bit of DNA of ensuring that entrepreneurship as a subject or as a thought should be reciprocated across. And I think Indians typically have that kind of a flair. So while I started my career in banking, I remember telling my elder sister when she started her career working for someone that how can you work for someone? We're supposed to be from an entrepreneur family. And I ended up doing the same. I joined bank, which was Standard Chartered and campus placement. And from there, I built my career. Over a period of time, I funded SME, mid-corporates, large corporates, and realized startups is something which is closer to my heart. I started funding them out of banks, created verticals to fund new age businesses from banks. And then it had to be your own. So came out of the banking stint after various years of experience working with 4-5 banks. And Stride came in being with a very clear thought that entrepreneurship is very different. It's not for all. And if some people chooses to go that way, there will be various challenges. It's important to be a real partner. I know venture space people say that, but walking the talk in terms of understanding their businesses, finding solutions, I think that's the white space I thought that India had an opportunity in 2018 and still possess, to be honest. And that's how Stride came in being. That's been a quick background. As we speak today, Stride Ventures stand for domestic and international funds, where we do primarily venture financing, but we also have supported companies on equity wherever we believe that the opportunities are right. We have doubled down on them on equity on behalf of our investors. And StrideOne is a pure play digital bank for startups where they can express the products which they want. Every business is very different. So we co-create products as per the business requirements. So a media company or an agri-tech company or a consumer company has different requirements. So that institution is only meant to create the financing requirements for that. Treat it like an embedded finance, if you've heard about that word, embedded finance across industries.
Embedded financing.
Yes, I can go deeper in that word. But the point is it's a digital bank for entrepreneurs, meant for them. Anyone who's starting up or building a business, we'll finance you, we'll create financial products for you. That's StrideOne for you.
And the core focus is in India or geographical expansions?
No, we recently became the first Indian fund to have a lot of first. We came into a gift city fund, which is offshore vehicle of government of India. We've got an in-principle license with Abu Dhabi. So we have gone global first to fund Indian startups going global. Mm-hmm. So that's another outreach of Indian entrepreneurship, that you're going global, we'll come and support you. And now we're looking at some local companies, domestic companies of those regions in order to support them on the financing strategy first. So that international expansion has started happening.
What do you think are the key factors that have made Indian VC so successful?
Yeah, actually, first of all, let's understand the overall dynamics of the market. And I think this venture space will come along because it's primarily an outcome of what kind of opportunities the market possesses. So for UAE, it will be very different as of now versus India, purely because of the fact of demographics. If you see, we naturally speak about 1.4 billion population of India. We talk about per capita income, which is very sweet from a perspective of lot of consumer companies and a lot of various sectors have a demand at that per capita income. We talk about smartphone penetration in India, which has significantly increased. We talk about digital stack of government, the infrastructure which has been created, which also means akin to a social security number. You have Aadhaar in India, and you have a lot of government tax initiatives which have started talking to each other, right? So you have GST enablements for small businesses. And you have a core financial tech ecosystem which is talking to all the lenders. And this gives creativity for a lot of products. So that excitement of seeing a large consumer base with youngish population and growing and tech enabled, because you have digitalization, you have smartphone enablement, can have exciting times for all the sectors. But primarily when you speak about, you'll see growth happening in venture space, specifically in India, coming from consumer, coming from mobility, again, linked to, and it can be a derivation of logistics business. Agri-tech has transformed over a period of time. EdTech has transformed. It has its wins and losses, but it has transformed. People have started, COVID was a forceful adoption. Post that, people have started talking about more adoption. And actually, we cannot take the fact that Indian education system is quite decent as well, right? So you see global leaders now across Fortune 500 companies, the new leaders coming from Indian pedigree. So there is a basic DNA which has been considered relatively intelligent. So that actually also gives a lot of tech flair to India, whether it's going global, being in Silicon Valley, Indians being in Silicon Valley, but that thought process of engineering being common to a lot of people in the country. And coming from that background gives an interesting mix of, say, a tech center like Bangalore can be created or Gurgaon can be created in NCR. So it's a combination of factors, a culmination of factors which comes together, makes space for every kind of investor. Venture more, because I think venture ecosystem practically started flexing muscle in India in 2015 as per us. While it has been prevalent earlier, real flux came in 2015 when a lot of global investors started looking at India. And last 3, 4, 5 years, especially with digitalization happening, has made it more interesting. So 21, 22, like globally, was one of the best years for India, where you saw a lot of venture capital flowing in post-US. In fact, we were the second most recipient of as India as for the tech investments. So given a lot of global funds coming into the market, a lot of domestic capital came in the market as well. So a lot of fund managers who were with global funds, with so much of liquidity flow, opted to choose becoming first-time fund managers. And then there was a different dimension, Mehdi, where traditional families in India have gained strength to strength. The public markets have done well. They've created a lot of wealth for themselves. New generation has come in. They want to transform these businesses. So they believe that the tech enablement is the right way, right? And hence, a lot of capital started flowing into the private markets, which gave breeding grounds for these fund managers to come in. So it is kind of, I call it like a circular economy of sorts, right? Where it comes as a circle in terms of ensuring that the capital is getting rotated in private markets alongside public markets.
It's a couple of questions that came to my mind when you were giving your perspective on this. One of them is, what has made India, in your opinion, the tech hub of the world?
I'm not sure where you can call it tech hub, but yeah, one of the most lucrative tech markets for the world. And it's primarily lying at the consumer hands. Because of the fact, the point is, if you, for example, take B2B SaaS, I don't think you will use that terminology for India. Indian companies, Indian founders, Indian origin founders making for global companies is real B2B SaaS. Because I don't think Indian businesses as of now are paying for SaaS. Right? If you go specific into tech, right? SaaS, if you take as a vertical, it's Indian companies going global or making for global markets. Indian companies are still adopting the fact that they're able. So the tech multiples are very different if it's a domestic SaaS company versus a global SaaS company. That's on SaaS. But anything which, as I said, which has a digital penetration across sectors, has given a lot of grounds for the people to come in tech. The tech salaries have risen over a period of the last 5 years. People have opted to go for this profession. A lot of entrepreneurship has come out in tech. A lot of founders one of the founders are definitely a CTO. So it has become a breeding ground which was never existent. The entire DNA of the country is talking about tech. When you start doing that, there's a ripple effect, right?
Exactly. And this is why I asked the questions, because maybe India is not, but it definitely has the brand. Mm-hmm. So if you look at it, if you ask anybody, right? So if you want to talk about tech, if you want to talk about anything which has to do with IT, AI, so on and so forth, maybe not AI, or maybe
IT, yes.
maybe you can correct me with AI. I don't know what are the strides that India is doing when it comes to artificial intelligence, but yeah, the first country that comes to mind is India.
Yeah, I like the fact you use the word strides. So yes. I know, not deliberately, but that's what we stand for. The point is, look, it has always been an IT outsourcing market. if you see TCS, Infosys, Wipros of the world, we have been a global provider of technology for decades. So it's not that we had been away from that, right? The Bangalore has been a hub for that, which we call Silicon City of ours. So it has always been there. The point is it has taken a paradigm shift from a perspective of it being available to consumer. I think that leg of saying we're not only outsourcing company, we can create. In fact, recent news is one of the fastest unicorns came out to be an AI company, started by a third-time co-founder of India.
Wow.
And it became a unicorn in 24 months. So people now think that there can be an alternate to the global AI companies which are getting created coming out of India. So coming to your AI question, right? So AI was not been as much spoken, and I have a very different perspective of AI, and we can go specific on that. But now AI companies, people are feeling proud of the fact that AI companies that confidence of saying that we can create AI companies have started coming in. It requires, again, a different thought process to look at it. I think we are behind than US in the thought of looking at it, but I think it's picking up. AI element is picking up. Tech was always there. It has just changed grounds of being more prevalent in a more easy manner for the local consumer. Marketplaces have come in, the shopping experience, the overall buying flow of the consumer behavior because of the tech being enabled at cross levels has changed hands.
AI is definitely the new it word. So everything new that we're listening to, potential investments, so on and so forth, everybody's just sticking the word AI into it. So what do you think is needed for VCs that want to, and entrepreneurs that want to start in AI? What do you think is needed? What is the core, the essence for success?
So first of all, honestly, even if you speak to venture investors or other investors, I don't think the real implications everyone is aware about. I know people have to go and transform themselves into AML. And the way of looking at it is, why don't you enable small things in the business rather than transforming an entire company? So if you're talking about manufacturing, why can't AI or machine learning be a part of some of the R&D element of manufacturing to start with? If you talk in AI and finance, we run an operating company, StrideOne, which I spoke about. So you're saying, okay, the invoice reading, can we have open source AIs to integrate, to make sure that this is where we do not require manual intervention? So I think it's like a public-private partnership, using it smartly. They are open sources. There will be new sources which will be getting created. How do you embed with them is the starting point. Because not everybody has to go and transform their companies into AI companies. Not every industry is meant to do that. It's about talking right, enabling open infrastructure or enabling those elements of the business where the transformation can easily get plugged in. And honestly, in our company also, we've not been able to add too many human resources in operations in the past 12 months because we smartly used AI. Right? It's about using AI in finance is big as well. We are a financial industry, we specialize in that. AI in finance is becoming big. The way of looking at it is that if you're doing trade transactions in bank, if you're doing treasury transactions, if you're remitting money, can that have a blockchain element? Blockchain element is enabled by it. So I think every business has use cases. Next 2-3 years will transform those use cases in a very different manner. To what extent we'll be able to reach is something which we'll have to monitor. But you'll see a very nice partnership coming in where I'm sure that there'll be a lot of enablements around AI for every business, each and every media business. I think you're very close to media business.
It's one of our verticals.
One of your verticals. Media business will have a lot of elements of AI as per me. We have also funded some media companies back home in India. So I think every business will have its own elements, which businesses suits on what kind of requirements, what kind of infrastructure they provide, where those elements can be plugged in from the open source and the new sources is something to watch out for.
And with this new dynamic, currently, what sectors are you focusing on, and will you continue focusing on these sectors, or do you see yourself expanding into new sectors?
Yeah, so from Stride Ventures perspective, till now we've been largely sector agnostic because that's had been the mandate. But if you see our capital deployment, because we fund a lot of companies where capital is like a raw material, you'll see fintech, climate tech, because it's a lot of capital expenditure when you create an EV infrastructure or a solar infrastructure is capital intensive, right? So we funded that sector. So fintech, this and a combination of logistics, where you again capital is an important enabler, has been largely a 75, including consumer, has been 75-80% of our deployment. we like to believe the capital deployment at the venture side, Stride Ventures side, will continue in that manner. But we think that there's an opportunity right now to double down on climate tech, fintech as sectors.
Sorry, but when you say climate tech, can you expand a bit on that?
Climate tech, Mehdi, for us is anything which helps solve for net zero goals. We have net zero goals for 2030, 40. And the point is that any company which is trying to enable, whether it's in the form of is it in the form of waste management, it's in the form of solar, it's in form of electric vehicles, sustainable energy. So we have a lot of initiatives coming in India, and a lot of developed countries also, in a lot of West countries are looking up to India in terms of following that. So we've seen a lot of different kind of initiatives coming in. We have infrastructure which is changing hands.
Right.
In India, when you come now, people are talking about solar rooftop, which was never the case at residential places. They're talking about solar rooftop at manufacturing places. EV has started becoming a part of life, with charging infrastructure has evolved over a period of time. I think that's a lot of changes all of a sudden in the last 3-4 years only in EV and solar. And then if you go and extract yourself towards waste management, there's a host of other solutions.
Our investment thesis is a bit different than yours because we're more on later stage. It's hard to assess who's going to be the winner.
Mm-hmm.
How do you decide how you're going to allocate?
Another interesting thing in our model is, which becomes very unique, we work with all the top global and domestic funds in India because we kept ourselves sector and stage agnostic. When you do that, you have an amazing deal flow. And at Stride, we are only, as I said, funding on entrepreneurs. We have 200 people back home only trying to fund entrepreneurs. So when you do that,
200 people only trying to find entrepreneurs.
And this is what we do at Pudent. So the point is, when you do that, you're trying to introspect a lot of businesses, work with top global funds, look at their deals, and all the experience of evaluating 5,000 odd companies has benchmarks. Which are the companies at right gross margins, right contribution margin, what scale? And to answer your question, we actually come at mid-stage also on our debt product. But the point is that you have benchmarks, right? You have sectoral benchmarks which you create over a period of time. That can give a lot of intelligence for you to start understanding if this is the industry and this is a segment, these are the right margins to be at this scale of the business. And another thing which we have realized over a period of time, entrepreneurship, I started my conversation stating entrepreneurship is difficult. I think I truly believe there's a lot of loneliness in the journey when you become entrepreneurs while you create great founding team and all. So how do you, when you talk about becoming their partners, you have to understand where they lack. So some businesses will be very good in order to take it to a certain scale, but do the founding team, founder, the bench strength is like that they can take it to a 5x, 10x, 20x scale while not getting perturbed and maintaining that aspect. So it comes down to governance, it comes down to policies which they form. Are they looking at it long term? What kind of audit partners? Smaller things, right? HR policies.
Yes.
How are they looking at this company being 10x from here? And are they prepared for it? With those margins. So one is the profitability element. Second is the operational might of the business. If you combine both and they have a clear path, ideally they can be right to win if the founder has a vision.
Yeah, if the founder has the vision, if he has the right mindset. Because some founders, from speaking to God knows how many, they think that they do, but in reality maybe they don't. Maybe they want to stick to it because it's their own baby.
Yeah.
And some of them are open to changes, as you said, in corporate governance, auditing, accounting, so on and so forth. That sure, sometimes they realize that they do need help and they cannot do it by themselves.
Yes.
So I think that you have 200 people looking out for entrepreneurs. You must have maybe narrowed it down to a kind of a science and to certain criteria that you would find. So what would you say are the top 3 or the most important 3 criteria that you would like to see in a potential entrepreneur?
Great question. But before that, the reason I can sit with you in your beautiful office in Abu Dhabi right now and speak about it while our team is taking care of the business back home, because I think you have to create a lot of entrepreneurship within the company as well. You have to promote that. And that takes back me to the question of the 3 traits. And first of all is that are we creating enough entrepreneurs? And not from the perspective of terming them as co-founders or partners, do they have the right to take calls in their departments in real sense? Or is it for the sake of it? And I think the realization also is because we've been on the investing side for a while. You know which founders have done what kind of right things. And they're investors who invested in our businesses, right? In our fund. So you have traditional founders who've been there, done that, right? So I think those learnings are important. So when you do conversations, it's important to imbibe those learnings. And that takes me to my top of the mind 3 recall will be, first of all, the culture within the firm. What you're talking, how you're talking. For us, for example, being a global firm and not globally, we are headquartered in Gurgaon. If you'll come to our office, you'll see that we've not kept attendance system since day one. We've not done that. And at a decent scale, not done that.
You're working with adults.
You have to presume that,
everybody
right?
should know their responsibility. If you're not inspired from within you to come every day and put your soul into your job, then you're not the right fit.
So it doesn't mean that we lack intensity or we naturally would not push our people. We try to push. There's a lot of Stride can't be Stride if people have not flexed themselves. But the point is that there's a high degree of trust. Mm-hmm. And first of all, it comes from a culture in terms of picking those people who believe that has to be inculcated going forward. Because they believe in working like that, so the style will flow in. So it's important that the people at the top and mid think alike. And it's not so that the people who are trying to execute few stuff also start thinking that this is the way we work.
Interesting. We have a saying in Arabic, فَقَدُ الشَّيْءِ لَا يُعْطِيهِ, which translates to, you cannot give something that you don't have.
Absolutely the same. Right? You can't teach something which you don't follow yourself. Absolutely. Exactly. And second element, which is very important, I think it's sometimes foolish to think that you're the most intelligent person in the room.
100%.
So when you walk into the room and you think that the people who might report into you or who work with you are more intelligent, I think that's the best place to be. Then also they would want to work with you. So I think getting that element along of ensuring that you get more smarter people, not getting afraid about that, and ensuring you keep on promoting that. But at the same time, secure them. Because these are people who are hungry, who are smart, who want to create something of their own, protect them. I think that's the second element is what I like to state. So culture for me, and this third has to be basic integrity. You have to you can do everything, but if the third one falls, it's all over in the starting or in the mid or in wherever it is. So you have to get the basic integrity in place. I think what I fail to understand, and I'm not sure about how you've seen this experiences playing out at other locations. I'm not talking about India, otherwise as well. Sometimes founder gets carried away, especially new age businesses at a certain stage. They come on a treadmill to achieve certain things. And for doing that, they just overlook few things or maybe just want to play around with certain things where they should not. They have to define that line. And that is the integrity line. So I think a combination of these three might be right up there for me.
Very beautiful. Actually, the second one that you had mentioned, our CEO, she always tells us whenever you're hiring someone, make sure you're only hiring A players. So make sure you're hiring someone who's better than you.
Absolutely.
Because they're gonna improve you, they're gonna improve the whole team, so on and so forth. Don't go and hire C and D players because they're gonna bring us down. Only hire A players.
And you know what? Very few people spend time, very few CEOs spend time on HR. I think it's one of the most underrated functions. You have to spend time with talent. You have to sell the story to them. For a company which is 1,000 crore, say a $200 million company want to become $1 billion company, you have to sell the story to the talent that this will go to $1 billion.
True.
And that's CEO's work.
Yes.
CEO's work is not to make sure that the CEO comes every day in the morning to do the work. CEO's work is to make sure that you motivate people to do the work.
100%. So you recently set up your office in Abu Dhabi.
Yes.
And what can you tell us about that?
I can tell you everything, whatever you want to know. It's a very transparent way of looking at the business. We are privileged to have a person here called Jitesh, who've been with us for, and incidentally came to the firm and 6 months down the line, or maybe before that, we said, oh, you have to set up a region for us. Clueless coming from Indian government of India arm, and I think he's done an amazing job. So I think overall we've got our office in place in record time with licenses in place. So we are all in terms of going live with Abu Dhabi. Government was kind enough. I think ADGM embraced us very well in terms of being the first Indian fund manager being here. So we truly believe in two things. I think we believe long-term with Abu Dhabi, because a typical way of looking at this market is that this is a capital-intensive market. You can get a lot of capital. So you come do your discussions, go back. We were very clear that this is long-term for us. So we wanted to actually fund the region also wherever we find transaction and take Indian companies. So we got a bunch of our portfolio companies last year, 25 of them. I think most of them were above $200 million, $150, $200 million of enterprise value. Did a roadshow with the government, within the corridor, and it resulted in a couple of business which they ended up doing with the government. And I think that's what, as per us, the UAE government is also looking at in terms of embracing talent, tech here. So we're trying to promote that. At the same time, funding the sector. So I think next time when we'll meet, most probably we'll have companies to announce that these are the 2-3 businesses which we have started to work in the region. So I think it's come out beautifully. Whatever anticipated has been, God has been kind, and it's come in shape.
Do you see any similarities between the Indian VC market and the UAE VC market?
Very different.
Okay.
And we realized it more when we started going deeper, because what we also realized, there are a lot of companies here where it got funded by domestic venture capital investors, which has not turned out as a good experience for a lot of people. Maybe the market was not as prepared when they invested, and it's much better now. Saudi has come up as a very important market for everyone. We're going through a few statistics stating that Saudi, while globally the investments have gone down, only one country has stood out with Saudi Arabia, right? So I think they're very interesting statistics. I like to believe we've played India's strategy very differently, and I was talking about this earlier today to someone, that this strategy also is quite different, right? You have to have a right blend of what the government wants and what, at least where we come from, what we possess. And there is an affinity towards foreign fund managers, I realize here, especially US fund managers who've been around, and there are a lot of investments being done with them. So we're trying to understand the corridor that what embraces well, and trying to promote right talent tech, as I said, working closely with the government. I think it's a very different market. It's a market which believes in long-term relationship, patience, and being transparent. I think all of these are good traits to have for any fund manager who's looking to set up the business. So it's all good, but naturally very different dynamics, very different per capita income. Back home, India is like a 7,000, if I'm correct, $7,000 per capita, roughly around that. Naturally per capita in Abu Dhabi, Dubai is very different than
like $110,000.
But Riyadh might be closer to India, right?
Maybe like 70. $70,000 in Riyadh.
Are you sure?
Maybe, I don't know.
No, I don't think it would be 70. I think it would be much less.
Maybe someone here can help us out.
Much less, but I'm sure it's not $7,000.
70.
No, I'm sorry. India is $7,000.
Yeah.
21 data.
Yeah.
So I think it's a very different market for that matter. We can't compare it with the Indian market. It's a very different market. You have to play horses for courses. And that's our strategy has been now embracing understanding fintech, climate tech, the two strategies to start working with, and then evolve that how the consumer market shape up, how's the AI, how's the tech market will come up here. But I see green shoots. I think in the last 12, 15 months since the time we've been coming in, we've seen a lot of change.
In regulations or in the attitude of the funds and the entrepreneurs? So
Mehdi, what happens if I've seen a lot of large global funds also coming to the region?
Yes.
It always helps creating an ecosystem and vibes. I think government has also embraced a lot of ADGM itself has expanded.
They're doing a wonderful job.
So ADGM expanded, DIFC has been at it. I think there's a lot of education which has gone in. From a proximity, Indians have taken a liking. There's Southeast Asia is very close from a proximity perspective. So that's always a positive, right? I think there's a lot of element of attraction of talent in various shape and form. Mm-hmm. And everybody understands that will give birth to technology and new initiatives and new aspects. And corridors have been good. Government relationships have been good. So that's another positive element besides that. Honestly, but it is a market where you have to commit yourself. You have to deepen the relationships. You have to work on understand the priorities and work accordingly. So it's a very different market. It's not an opportunistic market to make returns. It is an involved more involved market that way.
And where do you see Stride focusing on in the region here?
We're starting with the same strategy. Yeah, we would be lending plus equity options in the companies. So we started working with all the major investors. In fact, incidentally, we funded a company of Mubadala recently, the sovereign arm in India, where we see an opportunity to fund them in UAE as well because they have presence here. So as we go global, we understand the aspects of, as of now, I think from UAE to India and other corridors, there's a lot of late stage capital which has come in. Mid and early has not been as active in this corridor. So we are trying to work in terms of activating some of the early to mid stage names in those sectors which I mentioned and late stage as well. So it's to make sure that you're omnipresent and you're trying to create your breadth across stages with couple of focus sectors. That's the strategy.
Which are?
So fintech and, as I said, fintech and climate tech are core, which is an extension in terms of infrastructure play.
This is here in the region.
Here. And infrastructure play. So fintech, good consumer companies which are making it very different here or in Saudi is another area of element.
Interesting. And in terms of cross collaboration, you said you're working more and more with the, with the regulators like EDGM, and you're seeing some regulations happening, so on and so forth. Do you think this is going to be more on an organic thing in terms of like the regulations happening, or do you think that there are like certain points that can be taken from an already established market like India that can be implemented here, or is it like a different dynamic because of the as you said, the income and
Actually, I got a great chance to meet some of the ministers, not here but in Davos recently, 2 weeks back in the lounge of UAE, and actually the thought process and the way of thinking is very forward looking.
Great.
So I don't think we are talking about not opening up to new ideas. We're talking about an evolution which is good for the country, which is good for the residents, improvisation of infrastructure in every kind, not the public infrastructure, but technology infrastructure. So I think that all the right stuff and all the right discussions are happening and very modestly done. That's another good area of aspect. I think our discussions have been quite smooth, very embracing. So from that perspective, I see that there is a very clear aspect of saying that, okay, if you recommend us some good positive things coming from India, as you say, tech capital or tech hub, what that can be, how we can embrace it. Right? So the thought process of being open towards having those discussions is very, very good. And that can definitely give it, because the capital has never been a constraint for the region.
No.
we all of us are aware about it. It's about embracing right kind of thought process and being open towards it. So ADGM has, as I said, we have had a good experience. I think if you talk about fintech evolution, there can be a lot of more activities which can be opened over a period of time, which is within the purview of sovereignty in terms of not being, not compromising on any specific elements of something which country is uncomfortable about. But the point is, I think basic infrastructure of financial technology, the way we came out with certain elements of government infrastructure is getting done, or the thought process is going in that direction. And as I said, it's different markets. So it has to be done as per what the market requires. But we think that it's been very forward looking in discussions as of now.
What would you advise regional entrepreneurs? So we're talking about entrepreneurs in the UAE and Saudi, Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, so on and so forth. What would you advise them?
I think we're too early to advise them here, but given this question, I think overall they should understand what's worked for global companies, irrespective of local challenges. Okay, every country is very different. People say India is a culmination of all small states being considered like countries, right? Not small states from that perspective, but all states considered as different countries. So they are like countries within a country. So India is a difficult market in itself, to be honest. So every country has its own challenges.
Dynamics, yes.
But it's important for them to think long. They can't get bogged down thinking past and saying, oh, this doesn't work. Somebody was telling me earlier in the day that this aspect of capital is missing and nobody will touch that element of capital. So either company will go up or there'll be a dying down process. What's worked globally in terms of saying what are the global coalition, what are the global alliances I can do? Can I get a different perspective to talent? Can I export or can I import? Can I do something which is different, out of box? I think that ability of not giving up is very important. And every country who built that venture ecosystem would have gone through it. If the region has to further flex itself, those founders, first of all, have to carry the torch of ensuring that there will be challenges. The capital might not be available. How you ensure that you lie low and go towards profitability and come back is very important rather than giving up. I think that's where I'm saying that they have to understand the learnings from other regions of some of the founders who've had challenges, who've kept themselves low for years and came back strongly, or collaborating with other countries, trying to understand how can they take something global or get something here in terms of talent, technology, to evolve themselves. That constant thought of evolution. At Stride, trust me, hand on heart, if you would have asked me, we would have ended up creating 2 franchises, being global, thinking about local stuff. Naturally, it's an evolution of thought which has happened over a period of time. I think every founder has to go through that journey of constantly thinking innovation, at the same time concentrating on execution. So I think it's a combination of innovation and execution that makes entrepreneurship very unique and challenging. So I think that the region has to go through that. I don't think region has done its cycle as yet. But moment it gets open up with all the corridors, I hear good things about extension of corridor in terms of Egypt also doing well. We know about Saudi opportunity. We spoke about it. So I think overall, in fact, one of the UAE ministers was talking about highly about Saudi sitting here in Abu Dhabi in one of the discussions. So people embrace this as an extended ecosystem, right, of Middle East, Myanmar. So very, very positive about if founders take a liking towards it. I think it can be better. It can be, I'm sure there are challenges which I can comment further when we go deeper. But that element of positivity is very important. I see certain people are bogged down because they've seen some of the families have lost money. And there's this certain element of being bogged down. I think that element of rising up and saying, okay, this is our time. Some of the business, any which ways as a global philosophy in venture space would not do well, that's fine. But we'll keep on flexing ourselves. We'll keep on innovating. We'll keep on hustling. Hustle is a very important word in entrepreneurship.
100%. You gotta love the hustle. And as you said, you need to understand that the economy is a cycle.
Yeah.
So sometimes you might start a business and it's a downtrend, and you need to have the grit and the perseverance. If you genuinely believe in your business, and then once it starts, the economy starts picking up, you just ride the wave.
And Mehdi, you tell me any good business which has been built in 3 or 5 years? No, it's a journey, right? Because you have venture money available, you can't think that this business can be done in 2 years.
100%. Yeah.
Treat it as a 5-10 year at least commitment to build this. And if you do not succeed post that's fine. But treat it as a journey.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta love this approach of VC and how you back entrepreneurs, and you have a long-term vision, as opposed to people that, for example, they invest in the stock market and it's on a quarter to quarter.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's happening next quarter? What's happening?
In fact, venture also has that tag that you're trying to work for the rounds, right? You're trying to work from making sure that one value of the round goes to the next value as early as possible, so that you have a markup. So there are KRAs defined for everyone. Venture has that kind of a KRA. But overall, from entrepreneurs' perspective, I was talking about, since you mentioned about the landscape in general, I think they have to commit themselves long.
And if I want to ask you,
yes,
if life is a book, what would you call your current chapter?
Look, honestly, I would not mince my word. I'm not too much into books, but I'm reasonably into some of the movies or acts which I've liked. My personal favorite has always been, and it holds every day in my, it's not current scenario, but it holds every day with me, is a is a movie which had its own subversions. It's called Pursuit of Happiness. Right? So that element of what the person, in this case Will Smith as an actor, achieves in the end after all the struggle is what true entrepreneurship is all about. He did it for his family, but that's an extension. Your when you start a business, it's your family. So the grind which you go through, and when you achieve something which you want to achieve, is that happiness. I face it on my work day every day. It's just that sometimes I think it's a grind, sometimes I think it's happiness, so it keeps on changing hands. But that's what it is.
And where do you think you are in this grind process? Are you in the beginning? I mean, do you think you're in the middle, or?
I don't think I'll be able to retire, honestly. 5.5 years into this, I don't think I'll be able to retire. I think it's an amazing experience. And I just wish that I'm able to get this culture across to the organization so that they feel the same. That's one of the things which gives me grind, is to make sure that there's co-creation. Because the legacy of the institution is co-creation. But from a perspective of, it's a positive hustle, which is a grind, which gives happiness.
I think the world needs more people like you that are backing entrepreneurs, that have this very positive mindset, that love the grind, love the hustle. Ishpreet, this has been a very fascinating discussion. Thank you so much for your time.
Very kind of you. Very kind of you, Mehdi. It's all pleasure is all ours. And thanks for, we're all humbled to be on the podcast. I think we are early in this region. Thanks to you and Multiplier Group for making this happen, and look forward to be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. Please don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. You can find us on all of these platforms. See you on the next episode.